My name is Ian Beckett. I'm 53 years old, and for the better part of 2 decades, I was the guy they called old school. Not in the flannel shirt, nostalgic Polaroid kind of way. I mean in the sense that, to some people, I looked like a fossil, a walking, talking relic of handshakes, in-person meetings, and deals scribbled on legal pads over coffee instead of through Slack threads and performance dashboards. For 17 years, I ran the central sales division at Morrowbridge Media, a mid-sized publishing house out of Columbus. When I joined, we didn't have a CRM, just a wall of filing cabinets and a coffee pot that hadn't been cleaned since Clinton left office. My job wasn't glamorous. No TED Talks, no LinkedIn thought leadership. Just clients, calls, miles. Trust. Over time, we grew from regional to national. My team became the backbone of the business. By last year, we were pulling in over 60% of Morrowbridge's revenue, quietly, reliably, no algorithms. Just people. Then came the shuffle. It always starts with a memo. Leadership repositioning, they called it. A few consultants showed up, then an off-site retreat with lots of diagrams about synergy and innovation. Our CEO, Henry, retired early, cancer, they said, no ceremony. Just an email on a Friday night. His replacement came from a startup in Boston, Emma Caldwell. Sharp suit, sharper tongue. The kind who looks at your tie and asks if it's ironic. She didn't even pretend to like publishing. Legacy content, she called our titles. Her pitch? Digitize, disrupt, decentralize. Build funnels, automate outreach, and shift everything. Online, human contact was now a bottleneck, not a strength. She never asked what we did right. She came to correct what we hadn't done yet. At first, I ignored it. I kept running my team. We hit every target. We over-delivered, again, but I saw the signs. Fewer invites to leadership meetings. Clients I'd personally managed for years suddenly reassigned to digital liaisons. New hires half my age showing up with titles like Client Solution Strategist. And then, one Monday, her assistant popped his head into my office. She'd like to see you at 3, executive wing. I knew. Before I even stood up, I knew. The meeting lasted 12 minutes. No thanks for the years. Just sterile phrases about strategic realignment and optimizing for scale. My severance packet was printed, signed, and stapled before I walked through the door. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just nodded, stood up, and shook her hand. I packed my office that afternoon. Quietly, no farewell speech. No LinkedIn post about new beginnings. I didn't want sympathy. I wanted time, space, and maybe, just maybe, a moment to figure out what the hell had just happened. But here's the thing Emma didn't understand. Publishing is not tech. It's not product market fit and quarterly churn rates. It's people. It's long phone calls. It's remembering which editor likes bourbon and which one's allergic to cats. It's knowing your client's mother died last spring and not putting them on a marketing list for Mother's Day campaigns. You don't learn that in the dashboard. That night I sat on the back porch with a glass of rye and the sound of cicadas. My phone buzzed. A call from Julia Romang at Hello and Finch. I'd managed their account since before they even had an ISBN. I heard, she said. No small talk. You okay? I paused, then laughed, because honestly, I wasn't sure. Regret it, she said. And when you decide what's next, you call me first. By the end of the week, I'd heard from 6 clients. All with the same message we didn't sign contracts with. Morrowbridge. We signed them with you. And that was the moment, not the termination meeting, not the cardboard box of desk stuff, but that call, that message that made something shift. They fired a name on paper, but they forgot who carried the weight of the brand. They thought I was obsolete. But I wasn't broken. I was portable. The first few days after I left Morrowbridge, I did what anyone in my shoes would do. Nothing. I drank my coffee slower. took walks without checking my phone, slept a little later, stared at the ceiling a little longer. But that silence didn't last. Because the industry didn't let it dot by the third day, I had 12 missed calls. Former clients, old colleagues, even a few junior reps who'd worked under me years ago. Ian, tell me it's not true. We want to know what you're doing. Next, just say when. I didn't reply to any of them. Not yet. Then came the call that snapped everything into motion. It was from Julia. Romang again, Hello and Finch's head of publishing. I'm sitting across the table from a 27-year-old engagement architect, she said. He's trying to tell me how to restructure our editorial calendar based on click-curve timing. Ian, I haven't heard a single word about authors, readers, or our upcoming launch. I sighed. Are you ready to come back yet? She asked, back to what? To the only part of this business that still matters. I didn't have an answer, but I did have a question. What if? What if there was a way to do this without Morrowbridge, without any of it? Just a quiet space where real publishing people work with real publishers? Julia didn't hesitate. I'm in. I ended the call and sat in silence. My heart was pounding like I'd just run up 3 flights of stairs. That was the moment. Not a dream. Not a strategy deck. Just one idea and one person who believed in it. I called my lawyer the next day. Benjamin Weiss. We'd met years ago, when he helped us finalize a client acquisition deal. Smart guy, practical, no drama. Ben, I said, I've got a non-compete clause. You were terminated? Yep. Then we may have a window. He reviewed the clause and called me the next morning. It's overreaching, he said. They'll try to enforce it, but it's vague. You can't solicit clients, sure, but nothing stops you from existing. And if clients come to you of their own accord, he didn't have to finish. I already knew. That day I filed paperwork for something small. No fanfare. Just an LLC, Beckett & Co. Publishing advisors. No site. No pitch deck. No announcement. Just a phone number. By the end of the week, that number had rung 24 times. I didn't advertise. I didn't post on LinkedIn. I just answered. When they called, they didn't want webinars. They didn't need data pipelines. They wanted someone who understood their titles. Someone who'd read the manuscripts and remembered what their grandfather said when he founded the press in '78. Someone who knew what selling out meant in the literary world and how to avoid it, while still staying alive. None of that came from dashboards. 2 weeks after incorporation, Julia sent me a contract, 2 months of consulting, quietly structured to avoid any direct overlap with her old agreements at Morrowbridge. We called it advisory support, but we both knew what it was, a rescue mission, and soon she wasn't the only one. By week 3, I had 5 clients. By the end of the first month, I had to bring someone on, a young editor named Riley I'd met at a regional conference 2 years prior. She'd just been laid off by a university press. Smart, quick kind. No ego. Perfect. I didn't want to build a business. I just wanted to build something that worked. But as the calls kept coming, something became obvious. I wasn't the only one they'd discarded. They'd let go of decades of trust in favor of dashboards and trends. But trust doesn't fade quietly. It leaves a vacuum. And people come looking for where it went. By month 2, I was no longer just consulting. I was connecting. Helping one client partner with another. Suggesting co-launches, cross-promotion, distribution pooling. At one point, I mapped it all out on my whiteboard and realized something. I wasn't running a consultancy anymore. I was building a network. Private alliance of publishers who still believed in readers, not users. In books, not content blocks. And it was working. By the end of the 3rd month, we'd stopped calling it Beckett & Co. altogether. We weren't just advising anymore. We were coordinating, facilitating, building bridges across an industry that had forgotten how to talk to itself. So we gave it a new name, the Beckett Circle, not a company, not a firm, but a consortium. A quiet collective of publishers, editors, and imprints that wanted to stay independent without staying isolated. No hierarchy, no buy-ins, no glossy marketing campaigns. Just connection. Each new member brought their own strengths. Small university presses with brilliant niche catalogs, indie houses with loyal regional audiences, even one old poetry imprint from Maine whose founder still types letters on a Royal Quiet Deluxe. The kind of players who don't show up in shareholder reports, but who move the culture in quiet, meaningful ways, and they were all tired of being forced into digital funnels that didn't fit. Tired of performance dashboards that valued speed over craft. Tired of CEOs who didn't know the difference between a reader and a user. Emma Caldwell didn't know it yet, but she'd accidentally created something powerful. By gutting the old guard at Morrowbridge, she didn't modernize publishing, she fractured it. And those fractures had now formed a shape of their own. An ecosystem. By month 4, we had 12 members, each still running independently, but now sharing distribution routes, foreign rights contacts, vendor referrals, and promotional strategies. Ran operations out of a modest 2-room office near the riverfront. One desk for me, one for Riley. No receptionist. No glass walls. Just quiet work. Until the call came. It was Jacob, my former deputy at Morrowbridge. "Can we meet?" he asked. His voice lowered like someone calling from a confession booth. Not at the office. Not in public. We met the next evening in a quiet bar outside city limits. No fancy cocktails, no Wi-Fi. Just a jukebox that hadn't worked in years, and a bartender who minded his own business. Jacob looked worn out. Eyes heavy, tie loose. "They're imploding," he said before I even ordered my drink. "How bad?" 3 major clients walked. 2 more threatened. The new system's a mess. Nobody's using the CRM properly. Authors are complaining about delays. Contracts are stuck in legal review for months. And Emma? She's blaming legacy infrastructure. Translation, you. I sipped my coffee, said nothing. She knows you're out here. And she's worried. I haven't violated anything. I know, that's what scares her. Jacob hesitated, then slid a folded sheet of paper across the table. I didn't touch it. "What's that?" "A list," he said. "People who want out. People who want in." "Jacob, I'm not asking you to do anything illegal. I'm just telling you what I'm seeing, what they're seeing." I left the list on the table, didn't take it. Didn't need to, because the calls were already coming in. I wasn't the aggressor. I wasn't marketing anything. But the industry had a nose for warmth, and it could smell when someone was still picking up the phone instead of hiding behind automation. By the 5th month, we had to expand again. Rented a bigger office space, an old print warehouse. Fittingly, still no cubicles. Just one long table where anyone could work, anytime, a communal kitchen. A library that started with 10 donated titles and quickly grew into hundreds. People sent us books. Not PDFs, books. That was when I knew. This wasn't just a pivot. This was a movement. The storm finally broke in. Q2. Morrowbridge single quotes S quarterly earnings dropped 41%. Industry whispers turned into headlines. Legacy publisher struggles to adapt in a changing market. Read 1 in Publishing Insider. Too digital too fast. Asked another. Emma Caldwell's face was suddenly missing from the keynote speaker lists. And from the cover of Modern Media Monthly, replaced by more cautious voices. One's talking about balance instead of disruption. I didn't celebrate. That kind of collapse hurts more than one company. It shakes the whole ecosystem. Good people lose jobs. Good books fall through cracks. There's nothing satisfying about being right if it comes at the cost of everyone else bleeding out. Then one morning in July, my phone rang from an unknown number. "Ian Beckett?" "Speaking. This is George Pennington." I'm chairman of the board at Morrowbridge. I was wondering if you'd have time to meet. He didn't mention Emma, didn't mention anything about the past. Just gave me a time and a quiet address. A private club downtown. I showed up out of respect and curiosity. George was already seated, tie off, sleeves rolled up. The kind of man who looked like he'd made one too many hard decisions and was tired of pretending he liked it. We made a mistake, he said, not bothering with small talk. Several, actually, but the first was letting you go. I waited. We thought modernizing meant cutting ties with the past. We forgot that the past still had the keys to our future. Still, I said nothing. We want you back, Ian, not just as a consultant, as executive VP of client strategy, reporting only to the board, full control of your own team, double your previous salary, discretion to rebuild what you built before in your own way. I leaned back, not because I was flattered, but because I wanted to be sure. I heard him right. You're offering to let me run the very system your CEO said was obsolete. Emma will be stepping aside, so that was it. The knives had finally turned inward. Why now? I asked, because the clients are speaking with their feet, and they're walking straight into your hands. I sipped my water. I didn't take them, I said. No, they chose you. That's worse. The honesty surprised me. He reached into his briefcase and slid a manila folder across the table. No branding. Just a contract and a list of names. Ian, these people, they're still willing to do business with Morrowbridge, but only if you're back in charge. I didn't open the folder, because I already knew. Every name on that list had already called me. Some had joined the circle. Others were still circling, waiting for clarity. I could have walked out with power, title, prestige, and a corporate apology hidden in a promotion. I could have returned to my old desk and picked up where I left off, but the truth was, I didn't want my old desk anymore. I built something better, not bigger, not flashier, but cleaner, warmer, freer. Appreciate the offer, I said quietly. But I'm not coming back. He blinked, once, twice. We can negotiate, add equity, revise the scope. You don't need a scope revision, I said. You need a reset. And I'm not your reset button. George didn't argue, just nodded. Slowly, like a man who finally understood the difference between a resignation and a refusal. On the way out, I paused by the coat rack, looked around the room, the polished oak walls, the silent staff, the smell of old paper and power. For years, I thought this was the room you had to earn your way into. Now I realized it was just another box, just another frame someone else built. I had no desire to live inside someone else's frame anymore. 2 weeks after I turned down Morrowbridge's offer, I received a letter, not an email. A letter, ink on thick paper, signed by 3 of their remaining founding clients. One of them was Thomas Carrington from Newfield Books, a man I'd shared a handshake with every year at the Midwest Literary Forum since 2007. The letter didn't plead. It didn't offer terms. It simply said, greater than, we've resigned our contracts. We're joining whatever you're building next. At the bottom, greater than, this industry doesn't need more systems. It needs stewards. You've always been one. I sat with that for a long time. Then I called Julia, Ellison from Oakmere, and Danielle from Brookline Prince. I think it's time we formalize the circle, I told them. They agreed. We restructured, created a shared platform, a common catalog, pooled resources for book fairs and digital distribution. Not a company, a consortium. A loose alliance with one central purpose: protect the soul of small publishing from becoming collateral damage in someone else's tech experiment. We named it quietly the Circle Publishing Cooperative. No press release, no investor pitch, just word of mouth, whispered emails, and one line we agreed on: greater than asterisk, built by people who still believe books are made by hand, not by algorithm. Asterisk. Within 4 months, We had 20 members. By month 6, we had to turn down new applicants. Not out of arrogance, but to preserve what made us special. We weren't trying to dominate. We were trying to protect. Meanwhile, Morro Bridge made headlines again. Emma Caldwell resigned. Official statement: to pursue new opportunities in digital transformation. Unofficial reality: clients walked, authors followed, and the board. Panicked. In the aftermath, I received one final call, not from Pennington. From Jacob. "She's gone," he said. "They're restructuring again, rebranding, trying to recover. Are you staying?" "No, I'm done." "What will you do?" He paused, then asked, "Got a spare desk?" We onboarded him the next day. Not because I needed help, but because he understood. Some people don't leave for money or pride. They leave because they're tired of pretending. Broken systems work. Epilogue: it's been 1 year since my so-called exit. I now work from the same chair every day, flanked by a dozen quiet voices who care more about stories than spreadsheets. We don't hold strategy meetings in glass towers. We don't measure loyalty in KPIs. We send cards when authors lose a parent. We read manuscripts late into the night. We attend local bookshops Sunday readings because that's where the heart of publishing lives, not on a dashboard, not in an investor deck. They said I was too traditional. They were right. But what they missed was that tradition, at its core, means trust that stood the test of time. And sometimes, when a system burns itself down trying to be modern, the ones left standing are the ones who remember how to hold a match without setting the house on fire. I never wanted revenge. Just wanted to keep doing the job. Turns out, doing it quietly and well, that was the loudest thing I could have done.